strongly with these words that they're showing us. What I struggle with is this idea of karma. What you come into with and what limitations we have, and overcoming those, how that can be maybe a different path for this person than the other one. I don't know if you can. I don't really know if I have a question in that, but will you just reflect on that? Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, that karma question comes up, and it's as if you have done some things in the past, and there are consequences to those things that were done that have to be undone or have to be resolved in some way. And I would say it's a version of as you sow, so shall you reap. And in the context of reincarnation, it's like things seem to loop, like Groundhog Day, just loop around and around and around. You keep making the same mistakes until you don't. Like in Groundhog Day, when he finally recognizes there's a puddle in front of him, and he stepped in the puddle all those consecutive days, and then he notices the puddle, and he goes over the puddle, and from that point on, he never steps in that puddle. That would almost be like a karmic kind of healing, of recognizing something and then not falling into the pit. Now, with A Course in Miracles, it's such a deep teaching that basically when we say do not see error, or we talk about atonement or forgiveness, it's saying that you have the power this very instant to bring an end to the error. Do I want the problem or do I want the answer? And the answer would be the end of the karmic wheel. It would be the end of error. Even karma, in a reincarnational sense, is you just keep learning your lessons and healing your errors until you reach perfection. You go back to God in the future. And what the Course is teaching us is that even the future is a construct. It's part of the error. That the ego invented linear time and put the present moment in between the past and the future as this little ineffectual little blip, and then it tells you that you have no power in the present, you're guilty in the past, and you're going to be guilty in the future. And it therefore seals up this misperception of guilt. And the teachings, like Jesus would say, before Abraham was, I am, really the teachings are, is the present moment is not between the past and the future, it's actually before time was. It's actually prior to time. Innocence is prior to linear time. So, I'm always staying open to these things myself, and again, Dennis has the Beatles. I went to the wise sage John Lennon for the song. Did anybody ever hear John Lennon's song, Instant Karma? Ooh, what an interesting idea. John Lennon sings about instant karma. Instant karma is going to get you. Going to knock you right in the head. Better get yourself together, pretty soon you're going to be dead. Why in the world are we here? You don't have to live in pain and fear. And why in the world are you there when you're everywhere? Going to get your shit. The song is great because what it's doing is it's taking the karma idea, which is cause and consequence, and it's bringing it all back again to the present moment, which is our point of decision. That the only reason that in time these errors, this karmic error seems to go on, the wheel of time seems to go on, is because Jesus says, your main mistake is you keep making the same mistake in the present. You keep drawing upon the past, and you're drawing upon the past as if it's still here, as if you can still access memory in the past, but it's gone. He even comes out and says, this world was gone long ago. So it's almost like we're in some kind of a memory loop, an imaginary memory loop. It reminds me of a Star Trek episode too. There was a Star Trek episode, I think it was Star Trek The Next Generation, where every time the crew would go through all these different things and they would get to the same point and the ship would blow up. And then they'd find themselves back in this loop and they'd go through the same kind of circumstances and the ship would blow up. And they'd go through the same thing again and then the ship would blow up. And then they started to notice that they were in some kind of a loop, a time loop, in which the ship kept blowing up. So they decided to join together, and they said, we've got to stop this. We've got to do something different. We don't know what we have to do differently. We've got to do something different. And so they relied on data. You know, the android, the non-human, they said, you notice when these things start to happen, you tell us these things are starting to happen, and we're going to make another decision. And that's eventually how they got out of it. They got to a point where the ship didn't blow up. But they needed to be triggered that there was some kind of a mistake going on that they weren't recognizing so that they could make a different choice. That's really what A Course in Miracles is saying, I'll train your mind to get to a point where you will transcend the error. You'll get out of the groundhog loop of time. You won't keep making the same mistake. Because time is the problem, and that's where karma comes in. And if you just look at time, you could make a really good case for karma, because it just seems like the past repeats and past mistakes repeat over and over. You've heard people give testimonies. Why is it that I had 3 spouses and I kept marrying an alcoholic? Why did I keep attracting an alcoholic? You think I could learn from the first one, but I did it again and again. It's the same kind of karmic cosmic loop that goes on until we can recognize the mistake. Now what we do in our community is basically, that's where all this sharing of private thoughts comes in, letting all the unconscious up. Instead of just pushing things down and trying to brush over things, let it come to the surface. Talk about it. We need to be inspired by the Spirit to openly bring everything up from the darkness to the light, so that we don't follow this unconscious pattern of just making the same mistake over and over and over. And in one sense, it's like that movie Tron, where he basically pulls all the projections of his entire life back, the Father does. And that's a great moment of forgiveness. So it's exciting. It's like the adventure of bringing an end to karma. That's a challenge, you know, when you look at how deep the pattern seems to be. To bring an end to karma is exciting. I was excited about it. I was singing that instant karma song